Rajen Shah, Chief Investment Advisor at Tradebulls, also joins in with his fundamental view. And Rajan, let's start off with that. I think after this whole talk about Axis Bank and Kotak Bank potential merger, which of course Shikha Sharma shot down, the focus seems to have shifted to the smaller banks, where there can be some economies of scale generated.
Well, normally it's smaller fish, getting gulped by the bigger ones, So this smaller banks like Karnataka Bank, probably Federal Bank, then you have South India Bank, then a lot of regional banks, Lakshmi Vilas Bank and all that. I think sooner or later they are going to get taken over by the bigger ones in the industry, So that would be the story. Otherwise, for them to compete against this bigger player would get difficult day by day. So I think sooner or later these companies would be on the radar of the bigger ones actually, and probably that we could see some action in these stocks actually. But as it is, I am not a big fan of banking stocks,
Privates also?
Even private sector banks. I think that there are plenty of opportunities which could give you much better returns in the market. Like NBFC, I would rather get into something like Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services,
Sure.
which is focused on the rural part of the country. And I think if you see it over the last 6 years, they have doubled their, or not doubled actually, their branch network has gone up by almost about 60% or so. Employees have gone up by 60%, but there's no growth in the profit because of the slowdown and the drought and all that. But I think now with the focus on the rural economy, the stocks can be hogging the limelight very soon actually.
And we'll talk about that as well. But I just want to extend that point about banks, Avinash, a bit. In any of these small size private banks, if somebody is not a relative investor but wants to have some exposure to mid-sized banks, is there a favorite that you have and why?
No, I think clearly I think something like a Federal Bank would be much better positioned. If you see their branch network, their CASA ratio and the asset quality, I think this is a more stable kind of bank. I think as Rajan mentioned, Karnataka Bank has been in the news for a very long time as a takeover candidate. I think news comes in the market, then it gets disseminated, and then the news goes out. So I think from takeover point, I think it's very difficult to visualize which bank will be taken over and what will be the implications. But overall, I would say Federal Bank definitely is even an institutional favorite. We have seen a lot of funds taking stakes here, and I think from a longer term perspective, Federal Bank can definitely give a better risk reward ratio, from the current price levels.
Now, Rajan, M&M Financial, I understand the logic. I think there are a number of people who like that idea as well. Anything which is out of the ordinary and interesting that you've noticed, like somebody recently. I think in today's session was very impressed with Reliance Defense and the presentation there. But it's an out of the ordinary stock, not something that people talk about normally. I have heard out of the ordinary ideas from you in the past as well. What is something that you've looked at in the recent past? May not be the top of the list conviction bet, but something that is out of the ordinary.
Well, something disruptive like since we spoke about the banking thing, this payment bank. We are talking about banks, most of the time actually, but this payment bank is going to be a big thing actually. Airtel has already have, I think about more than 10 lakh subscribers or something, account holders now with the payment bank. Reliance, Airtel has about 2.5 lakh points of, payment bank actually, and Reliance is going to be almost about 4 lakh by, I think, June end. So this could be very interesting actually, and that
but
is
you wouldn't buy an Airtel because of that, would you?
No, I wouldn't buy Airtel because of that, but certainly Reliance, because Reliance, the oil business is being valued at just about 10 times. Then, the capex cycle is almost done, and here is a company which has actually doubled the net profit over the last 9 years. And the stock is actually down from 1600 rupees. It was 3200, adjusted for bonus 1600, and now it's 1200. So it's down 25%. Profit has doubled over the last 9 years. So I'm very confident that 1600 should be the base price for Reliance. We are talking about 1300, 1400 target, but I fail to understand why no analyst is coming up.
The market is not capturing that price.
Market
has a mind of its own.
Sometimes behaves irrationally, and that irrationality itself is an opportunity. So I think that. See, I would not be satisfied for a price of anything less than 1600 for Reliance.
Okay, hear out one more voice though, Ramdev Agarwal. We're talking about a bunch of stocks, and I'll tell you what, I think Rajen Shah has shifted his bases from identifying mid caps and small caps to talking about large caps. But we talked about a large space, and that is aviation. Ramdev Agarwal spoke to us earlier, and contrary to what most people would believe, Ramdev was not completely convinced that aviation is a sure shot bet right now. But hear out his thoughts on the aviation space.
Here we look at only the current earnings and earnings growth. and the P multiple. These three triangle we do. There the buyback is very important part of it. If the free cash flow is there, massive free cash flow is there, you're buying at, there is a guaranteed thing like as an activist or fair deal in terms of distribution is guaranteed. Nobody will, they will force Tim Cook or anybody to buy back the shares. If the growth is not there from the current level, so that $40-50 billion whatever they are earning, they will end up buying 5%, 6% of the stocks every year. Driving force in airline, I mean, for us was the lower cost of fuel and again consolidation here. And one player, see, we didn't buy so much airline as much as Indigo. You know, the superior airline and the kind of economics, the low cost economics and zero capital employed on the plane side, working capital side negative. So negative capital employed across and the growth and a hell of a reasonable price, and the size of opportunity is so massive even now. But we didn't make money. So to our record, we have not made money. We have lost money in Indigo.
A very candid chat with Ramdev, and you'll hear the entire half an hour today sometime in the evening as well, so do stay tuned for that as well on ET Now. However, the other bit that people should be watching out for is auto and the auto sales numbers as they trickle in starting tomorrow morning. But Yatin is here to give our viewers a quick estimate of what to expect from all the auto names. Do watch out for what Maruti has to do watch out for what Eicher Motors has to do. I think those are the names that are expected to come out with decent numbers. Any thoughts out here, Rajen? What do you like in the auto space? And then we'll get in Yatin, of course, with the estimates.
Before I talk about auto, let me clarify, make a disclaimer that I own Reliance, also I own Mahindra & Mahindra Finance, and I have not changed my gears from small cap, mid cap to large cap. I have plenty of ideas to share. As far as auto is concerned, I own Escorts actually.
Which is at a high.
I did buy it around 100 levels, 80-100 levels, and then exited around 350. Then again I have re-entered at about 285. I think it should do well. I think if you annualize the earnings of the last quarter, Escort should end the year with 18 rupees kind of earnings. And if you take a 10% growth in the volumes of the tractor business, and plus the revival of the construction equipment business, I think Escort could end 2018 with about 22 rupees earnings. So it's at 20 times. But then you also need to keep in mind that they own more than 100 acres at Faridabad. The value of that is also quite considerable, which we have never spoken about actually. So I think it's still a hold actually, probably because of the fancy for the stock now getting bigger and bigger day by day. I think the stock could even touch 500 levels very shortly.
So that's the story with Escorts, but other than that, December was not a damn squib really, far from it for the four-wheeler names, especially for the passenger vehicle segment. I mean, we would have imagined that names such as Eicher Motors with Royal Enfield as well as Maruti would take a bit of a step back, but that didn't happen. What's the call on how these auto majors would have started off the year? As we have the estimates and the sales numbers for Jan coming out tomorrow. Rajan, that question is for you. Rajan, that question is for you.
For me?
Yeah, on autos.
Achha, okay.
What do you expect? Because December was a bit of a damn squib, but do you think that they'll start off 2017 on a good note?
I think they should do very well. In China we sell about 2.5 crore cars, and in India we sell 25 lakh cars. So I think we got really good upside, and Maruti even at this levels of plus 25 times the earning, I think should do well actually. They should do quite well actually.
Okay, 320, and we'll get in some ideas from Avinash Gorakshekhar as well. But just before I get into our closing strategies, want to mark Bajaj Finserv. I think that has shot up now at 3937. This is really giving investors the bang for the buck. I remember 4 months ago or 5 months ago, Bajaj Finserv had an unabated rally, went up to all the way to 3200 thereabouts, and people were talking about that sum of parts with the value of Bajaj Finance, and then of course the individual business of Bajaj Finserv, and you're talking about whether the run is too heady. Now it is at 4000. These are life highs for Bajaj Finserv. Splendid going for this one, up and counting. I don't want to really get a technical trading opinion here because it might be difficult, but I think Bajaj Finserv is in a league of its own in terms of wealth creation. 36% in the first couple of months of this current calendar itself. Darshan, are dealers talking about this one?
I think Bajaj Finserv over the past few months, there has been accumulation, but it's the ultra HNIs which actually put their money into Bajaj Finserv. It's a high value stock, so not too much on the retail side, but yes, on the institutional side, surely there is accumulation. But some of the counters in which dealers are talking about, Bharat Forge for one is being keenly watched out for, and the reason that dealers told us is that today's Trump speech will be very, very important in terms of what they plan to do as far as their infrastructure spending is concerned, what they do as far as their tax laws are concerned. Bharat Forge has a substantial exposure to the US with respect to even the Class 8 trucks, with respect to oil and gas, and gets a substantial revenue from the US market. So it will be very interesting to watch how Bharat Forge will benefit if something positive comes out. Federal Bank, another counter in focus. It's the season of M&As. Banks are being linked to other banks, so there is something that is a buzz in Federal Bank. Also, some banks names are also being taken in dealing rooms, so this one is also a buzz in trade today. And India Cements is the last one in which dealers indicate that some of the marquee HNIs are accumulating. It's trending, technically looks extremely strong. FNOQs are very, very strong, so certainly watch out for this one.
Okay, thanks Darshan for that. Let's quickly get in ideas, 10 minutes of trade left. Dr. Narayan, I'll start with you. What is it that you'd recommend?
Well, I would suggest a BTST in Jubilant Food at the current price of between 1005 to 1010. Stock has been churning around this area for the past about 8 to 10 sessions and not really ceding any ground. I think a breakout from here is imminent, and once it happens, I would expect it to, regain its high beta character and move up to at least maybe 1030, 1040. So a buy on Jubilant Food with a stop at about 995.
Okay, Siddharth, your technical call before close?
So we were talking about Voltas, yesterday, if I'm not wrong, and we were anticipating that the move would happen above 365, 370 odd levels, and stock has given that move. It's heading towards levels of 395 or so. Even at current levels, I would suggest to go long. Stop loss can be kept around 364, 365 now.
Okay, Kunal, what about your strategy?
Well, other than Bank of India, which I recommended, at 255, I think one more stock which is looking good from the banking space is Canara Bank. I think the stock is at 296, 297 odd levels in terms of spot. Looking extremely good on short-term charts. It's finally regained its momentum, bouncing off from the long-term averages. So maybe as a BTST or as a pure momentum play, would look to go long on the stock. Target 308, stop loss of 288.
Yeah, PVR, Indian Hotels, Shree Cement, Graphite India. Look at those moves, excellent moves. And then of course, Bajaj Finserv extends its gains. So PVR, Finserv will come up, Graphite India will come up, Shree Cement a bit of a spike as well. Bajaj Finserv is arguably the stock of this hour right now. 3957 trading now at live highs, 3968 in fact. So even doing even more. Avinash, any thoughts here? Bajaj Finserv?
No, I think clearly, I think if you look at the performance of Bajaj Finserv, I think post demonetization they have managed to hold on the show pretty well. And I think in terms of loan book growth, asset quality, I think this is a stock which is a portfolio stock, Neeraj. Clearly, I think if one
even now,
yeah, even now, I think
buy it even now.
Yeah, I think clearly if you look at the next 12 to 18 months, I would not be surprised that the growth momentum would be more stronger in FY18. So I think it cannot be a trading stock, but it's typically an investment stock where you got to hold on and time it properly. So probably FY18 numbers should be extremely robust as compared to FY17.
Come on, Rajen Shah, give us an unusual idea.
Well, recently, on 25th Feb, actually, it has absolutely gone unnoticed on, I didn't see this on any of the business channels. Mahindra Holidays reported consolidated numbers. They reported standalone numbers in the month of January, but the consolidated numbers, that is the numbers of the 91% stake they hold in Holiday Club in Europe, the subsidiary which they bought last year. They consolidated the numbers and they reported the numbers. Now, if you see the first 9 months, the revenue is up 50%, the consolidated numbers I'm talking about, and the net profit is also up 50%.
50.
Yeah. Now, based on that, it should report about 17 rupees kind of earnings. So, I think the stock can go up to about 510 rupees, but I think the target is much higher. I am looking at a price of 750. Let me give a very interesting comparison, Neeraj, in 2009 June, when Mahindra Holidays came out with the IPO, they had 30 resorts Now, along with this holiday club which they bought over in Europe, they have 76 resorts. So the number of resorts has gone up by 2.5 times. They had 1 lakh members at that point of time in June 2009. Now they have 2.5 lakh members, 2 lakh 10,000 in India and about 40 or 50,000 in Europe. The number of rooms they had 1600 then in June 2009. Today they have got 4,000. So that's also up 2.5. Members also up 2.5. Number of resort up 2.5. Stock should be up 2.5, right? So 300 into 2.5, they came out with the IPO at 300 rupees. So logically the stock should be at 750. It's at about 435, 440. I think zero debt company, fabulous resorts. I have visited almost 10 of its properties and I find those properties really good. I think this is going to be a global vacation ownership company, and I think the stock should easily give you 75% return over probably 12, 18, 24 months, but it should give for sure.
Okay. That's a big bet.
Yeah, and bet on some consolidated numbers, which I think, yes, the market probably unnoticed. Okay, just before we wrap up the markets, Vivek is here with a quick perspective on the stock of the day. Vivek, there are a bunch of them. Which is the one that you've chosen?
Well, it's one that, I'm sure a lot of people have missed today, despite the fact that the stock has moved very, very significantly in the last couple of days. It's almost gone unnoticed. It just came up on the top of the screen, so I did a little bit of research. So the stock we're talking about today is called Jindal Worldwide. And if you talk about it, the company is actually present in the textile space. We've seen textile companies moving this month. We're talking about Raymond, talking about Welspun, Himmat Singha Seed, all of them moving quite significantly. But this company has actually managed to outpace all of them, and by a very significant margin. Looking at what they are doing, basically they're in the textile space, as I said earlier. They have one of the largest manufacturing and stitching capacity in the bed linen business. And look at their clients, all marquee names. You have Walmart, you have Disney as well. They have Springs, West Point, Stevens, Carrefour. These are the marquee clients that they have. And let me just take you through, the technical of the stock up for the 5th straight session. Talking about how the stock has gone up in the last 1 year. Stock has gone up 2.2 times, and just in the last 5 sessions the stock has gone up 80%, so significantly outperforming all of its peers. And if you talk about it, trading at a fresh 52-week high today, and last couple of sessions the volumes have been extremely strong on this particular counter.
Okay, thanks very much Vivek for running us through Jindal Worldwide. They're locked in circuit at 324 nearly. That's a stock which has made a fresh 52-week high. Let's start wrapping up the markets. It's been an interesting session. Not by way of what the headline indices have done, because they've done precious little, but in terms of individual movers, there's enough and more to report. So we started with BHEL, which is the top gainer in the session, 6% higher, followed by Bharti Airtel, which is up about 3%, a bit of a rebound coming in there. Yes Bank is holding fort among private banks. You can't say the same thing about the other major banks, because they are split down the middle, and not too much performance seen on the positive side by the other major banks. Hindalco is done okay. Adani Port is one of the performers. M&M is high about 1.5%. I missed out Asian Paints, but that also has grabbed headlines this afternoon. BPCL and all marketing companies continue to be a bit of a drag. Down 5% on BPCL. Grasim is down 3%. There's Coal India, which is looking weaker. Still a commodities play, so most of those names are stepping back a bit. NTPC is also down. Bajaj Auto ahead of auto sales numbers coming out for the month of Jan tomorrow, not doing a whole lot, weaker in trend. Bharti Infratel pretty much the same case.
Edelweiss has succumbed to a bit of selling today, despite the broader market strength being there, 4.5% higher. Remember, I mentioned in the morning as well, I think the commodity business, they've already sold out to IndiTrade, owned by Sudeep Bandopadhyay. So just be careful and verify your stories before you go out and believe some of those. Delta Corp has had a bit of a downtick today, a couple of percentage points down. Tech Mahindra, after having a good start, Tech Mahindra is a bit soft in the session today. But looking at the winners, KTK Bank, Federal Bank, not doing bad at all. DCB having a bit of strength, and I think some PSUs like OBC etc. too, probably, at least I saw OBC sometime in the afternoon and was doing well. Yes, up about 4%, so not a bad move. Now Jindal Stainless, and well, let me include Jindal Worldwide, something that Vivek was speaking about. Good moves for both of those. Reliance Communications, I think this whole Docomo deal leading people to believe that maybe Arcom could be a beneficiary at some point of time because of their own impending deal too, and Arcom is up about 6%. Today the logistic plays, the likes of Gati, All Cargo etc. We finally getting to know that all states are on board for GST to be launched from July 1st, and I think some traction for these names. A stock that has done very well all throughout the day today is Spark. Sun Pharma Advanced Research at 335 is up 4.5%. Has not done too badly. for itself, quite frankly. Then can't not talk about Bajaj Finserv. I think brilliant move there on the stock and continues to surprise one and all. 3976 now. This is doing very well for itself. In fact, if I can just do a quick check, and it's probably market cap of 63,000 crores. Yes, it is, and which is quite staggering. Much higher than the nearest second largest player in the listed space, that is ICICI Prudential. But Bajaj Finserv doing very well. Not to forget, of course, it's got the value of Bajaj Finance within itself too. 3976 is great. Lastly, couple of names. Lincoln Pharma, there's a brokerage note today. Maybe that led to the stock doing well, but up 20%, good going there. TRF up about 14%, so very good going for that stock as well. And Tata Metals again 7.5%. This one is very close to its 52-week high, so do watch out for Tata Metallics as well. Nevertheless, final thoughts from all our experts, and then we'll of course take in some final investment ideas from Rajen and Avinash. Not that we haven't done enough already, but always get more. We are greedy people. Siddharth Bhamre, your closing thoughts. The index has kind of been relatively flat today, but there was relative strength in the broader markets.
Too much of greed is not good, Neeraj.
I agree, Siddharth, completely.
Yeah, so not much of a change in what we all are thinking. In fact, CK Sami and Kunal, that this market is not showing signs that it's going to go up immediately, and it's not a index specific trades which need to be generated. Need to check. Yesterday, Neeraj, we saw 0.5% correction, but we didn't see any huge negative built up or huge selling by FIs. Let's see today if they have done. The way market has closed, doesn't seem like they would be bothering statisticians like us too much. So maintaining stance that no index calls and more stock specific.
CK, what's your assessment of how traders shaped up today?
Well, it's not too different from what we have been saying, since the morning. Both indices have been quite range bound, and it's really left to the individual stocks to provide various opportunities for players who would want to play them across from 1 to several days. There are enough consistent moves happening which are keeping investors busy short term, medium term. And people are trying to find value in some of the other areas, offbeat areas. And so I think this market is keeping all the kinds of players quite busy and quite happy at that, because so long as the market keeps remaining at higher levels and does not really fall, or there is nothing adverse on the horizon in terms of news and views, I think people are generally sanguine about the whole issue and are happy and content to let things be as they are and putter about with a little bit of extra action. So I think that is what we have been doing for the last few sessions. I see no reason to change that view for tomorrow unless we get something new by way of news inputs. Barring that, I think we'll have a repeat of what we saw on Monday, Tuesday.
Okay, and Kunal, your thoughts?
Similar, Neeraj, I think we've been discussing this, that the market could probably remain in a range. But I think just, one observation in terms of charts, on the Nifty, I think from those December lows, 26, 27 December lows, closer to that 7893 on Nifty spot, if you try and join a rising support line, I think we've just about tested today when the Nifty made a low of 8867 on spot. I think we've just about tested that support line on the indices. So I think if the indices, once again, sort of resume the uptrend, I think we should not be breaking this trend line. So maybe watch out for that over the next couple of days, especially tomorrow. If we take support closer to the 8850 mark, which we've been discussing since morning as well, I think there could probably be just one more dash towards that 52-week high again on the indices.
Leave it at that, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining and giving us all that technical opinion. Avinash, Gorakshekar, before we let you go, we haven't quite asked you about an investment idea today, Avinash.
Yeah, Neeraj, in fact, we have been recommending our clients a company called Indag Rubber. We believe that, the commodity cycle has now started moving up, and this company specializes in retrading. In fact, something interesting about this company is in the last 3 years, they have trebled their capacity, and now they stand on a retrading capacity of almost 30,000 tons. So our sense is that FY18 could possibly see a kind of a decisive uptrend in rubber prices, and to large extent, globally we have seen rubber companies, tire companies also having retrading units. So this trend has already started picking up in India. We believe that as a standalone player, this company has a very strong kind of business model in terms of procurement points for rubber, a very well established countrywide network, and most importantly it's virtually zero debt, a very high return on equity, gives good dividend to shareholders. So probably from here on this could be a good micro cap. It's got a market cap of roughly about 500 odd crores. We could see a very good risk reward ratio. I think targets could be even double over the next say 12-18 months.
Okay, so Indag Rubber, do watch out for this one as well. Rajen, anything we've missed asking you?
Well, I like Jet Airways actually. We're talking about Jet Airways, so that looks very interesting. 20% of India's aviation market at a market cap of less than 5,000 crores. And I think oil prices should remain at about $55-60, especially now that electric cars are picking up. Demand for crude oil over the next 5, 10, 15 years is going to be in check, So I think oil prices would remain in this level. And now with Mr. Warren Buffett picking up stake in airline companies, I think mindset of fund managers who normally talk bearish on aviation industry should change actually. So I think this looks very interesting, and the air traffic is also growing at 20% plus,
But not Spice, not Indigo, Jet.
No, Jet, because 4,500 crore for a company with 20% market share and debt of 10,000 crore, any reduction in debt should automatically translate into gains for the market cap, And 51% stake is held by Mr. Naresh Goyal, 24 by Etihad, so floating stock is also quite low. So I think should be an interesting play. I think it should scale up to the last peak of 750 probably in the next 1 year.
Okay, Avinash, Rajen, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining in today and giving us your thoughts. Always good having you. Pleasure. Thanks for joining in the studios as well. Let's take a break on that note. We come back from the break and talk about the auto sales numbers and give you a sense of what is it that the street is working with.